Hey Heartland family, Pastor Ethan here with another Walk the Path video from Sunday's message. This week we talked about Matthew chapter 11 verses 16 through 30. And we talked about Jesus still continuing to talk about John the Baptist and how this generation is complaining that you're not dancing when we want you to, you're not crying when we want you to, like Jesus and John, you're not doing what we want. And then Jesus continues to pronounce some woes, right? Woe to Chorazin, woe to Bethsaida. And he compares them to Tyre and Sidon, and then he talks about Capernaum and compares them to Sodom, and how there's a day of judgment coming for these people. And we looked into the king of Tyre and Ezekiel and kind of what God was talking about there, and that they were arrogant and prideful. And I think as we walk the path this week, maybe that's something we ought to consider. As we talked about last week, God often does what's unexpected. And if we look at other people's lives, oftentimes we can find ourselves just strictly sitting in the judgment camp where we just say, well, no, God couldn't possibly be doing something in their life. And but we might not know. God does what's unexpected. He might be preparing someone's heart. What Jesus says here in Matthew 11:25, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you've hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and revealed them to infants. Yes, this is your good pleasure. And so, if you're considering yourself to be wise and intelligent, maybe like, oh, I know so much more, I'm so much better than someone else, you really ought to stop and consider, well, you're not. Jesus made us what we are, right? He redeemed us. It's not a work of our own. And if you're wise by your own standards, we better watch out, because we're right on the edge of pride there. And so, maybe this week the walk the path is to look at someone else's life and to consider maybe God is doing something, and if you're doing something, how can I partner with you to help further it, to help get them one step closer to you and your kingdom? Maybe that's, as we talked about at the end of the service, maybe that's proclaiming the gospel to somebody, telling them about Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. Maybe it's just walking with someone and answering some questions and seeing where they're at. C.S. Lewis talked about in Screwtape Letters, we typically think of gluttony as overeating, but he talks about this thing called the gluttony of delicacy, and how we can be gluttonous in a way by wanting the perfect thing, or it done just right, and if it's not, we get upset. And I think that's the same here. We often get twisted with these little things, right, where, oh man, this is a really good thing, but it can twist, and it can become ungracious, and it can lose its compassion. And while we may be wise and have intelligence, let's make sure that we don't lose our grace and compassion for other people while we do that, because that can turn a good thing into something twisted. And so with that, we love you guys. Good luck walking the path this week, and we'll see you Sunday.